And welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fall virtual open house for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Miami, commonly referred to as OLLI. My name is Dr. Magda Vergara, and I am the director of OLLI. Today, I will present an overview of our program, and you will hear from some of our distinguished faculty. We will answer all of your questions about our program at the end, so you can feel free to submit any questions that you may have using the chat feature on the bottom of your screen. At the end of the program, you will also receive a brief survey that we ask you to complete. So now a little bit about our program. OLLI at UM is one of 125 programs nationwide. Membership caters to individuals who are over 50 who have a passion for learning and want to meet new people. It is a non-degree, non-certificate granting program that is membership and volunteer driven. We welcome our members' input and their participation. The members have opportunities to volunteer and serve on various committees that help shape our program and activities. We have over 1,400 members that take over 350 classes a year. I'm sorry, I went to the wrong slide. A little bit about our program structure. So our program is structured in a way which offers 6 sessions a year, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, and 2 in the summer. This year, given our COVID situation, we have expanded our offerings so that we are offering classes in 3 different modalities. In-person, hybrid, which offers both the opportunity to take the class via hybrid and in-person, and also remote only via Zoom. So you can choose which classes to take. The classes will meet once a week for 6 weeks, and they meet for an hour and 45 minutes long. Typically, our classes do not have any tests or homework unless indicated, but you will receive, for the most part, information so that you can continue from the instructor so that you can continue your learning. So you can receive additional bibliographic information and references that you can follow on your own. All of our instructors are highly experienced and very qualified. They have many years of learning and all have advanced degrees, with some of them being published authors, and you will meet some of our instructors here today. As part of the annual membership, you have a variety of benefits. First and foremost, you have Zoom tutoring and instruction, which is available to you if you are unfamiliar with this particular platform. You also receive a weekly OLLI News and Notes, which is our newsletter where we communicate to all our members up-to-date information about activities and any courses that are being offered. You have the ability to also register for over 350 courses a year, all for a nominal fee. You also gain borrowing privileges from the University of Miami Library and general admission to the Low Art Museum. We also offer at our OLLI free shared interest groups where you can meet with like-minded individuals, and you can attend our special speaker series where we have speakers that meet once a month and you can enjoy the different variety of topics. Most of all, you can engage with a lively and stimulating group of individuals. Now, given the current COVID situation, we have also developed COVID protocols that follow the University of Miami requirements. So all of our classes have been outfitted with wipes and hand sanitizers. Vaccinations are highly recommended. The entire staff and faculty are all vaccinated, and masks are required indoors. Social distancing will be observed in the classrooms and wherever possible. And these, of course, are subject to change as we are continuing to monitor the COVID situation in South Florida. The Zoom and hybrid classes are all live, so they are not pre-recorded. You have the opportunity to interact with your fellow members and then also with the instructors in a live basis. You have personalized links that will be sent to all the members registered in that particular class. Limited recordings will be available for any missed classes that you may have. And now I'd like to introduce you to our host today, Mr. Leslie Gross.
Good afternoon and welcome to the virtual fall 2021 open house of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at University of Miami, known affectionately as OLLI, as Magda indicated. I'm Leslie Gross and have the pleasure of serving as this year's chairperson of the OLLI Directors Advisory Council. And it's been my honor to work with Dr. Vergara, director of OLLI, to help make OLLI a meaningful and enriching experience for our members. For over 35 years, OLLI has been providing courses and social activities for its members. And our mission as part of the University of Miami is to provide adults 50 years or better, with the emphasis on better, with intellectual stimulation, social interaction, service opportunities, and outreach to the university and the greater community. We welcome all members of our community who consider learning an integral part of life. Our programs are designed to accommodate a relaxed learning atmosphere, making it easy for anyone who may have been away from a formal learning environment for many years. Classes included in our catalog are designed to spark your curiosity, encourage your participation, and fit a flexible schedule. In addition to attending classes, some of the ways you can participate in OLLI are teaching or co-teaching a course, serving as a leader or facilitator of a shared interest group, serving as a virtual class assistant or greeter, and participating in one or more of the 8 committees. Best of all, we have contact with a lively and stimulating group of fellow lifelong learners where everyone's participation and opinion are welcome. We are confident you will find at OLLI a wide variety of high quality, interesting courses and an outstanding faculty represented by our 4 panelists here today, whom you can see on the screen. I would now like to introduce the 4 of them to you. First, overall, Susan Dow, Joan Nurse, Mitra Raheb, and Michael Scheiback. Going in alphabetical order, so as not to show any preferences. Susan Dow has taught adults for over 20 years. She is a retired director of adult education at Miami-Dade College and current adjunct lecturer at the University of Miami in Spanish, iPhoneography, how to take pictures with your camera, with your phone camera, and English as a second language. Susan, I would like to start off by asking you, what is the series of courses that you have taught in your career at OLLI? And more importantly, even, what will you be teaching for the fall 1 and 2 sessions this year?
Okay, Leslie, what I'm going to be teaching in the fall is, 4 different classes. Beginning Spanish, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of survival Spanish, but we try to focus on useful vocabulary for people who are either traveling to Spanish-speaking countries or just getting by in Miami. The focus in all of the Spanish classes is on oral communication, not so much grammar and reading and writing, but being able to converse. So the beginning Spanish and intermediate Spanish are both 2 parts. So when you complete beginning, you can go on to intermediate if you want to continue. And then the 3rd Spanish class is called Café y Conversación, which is a less structured, more relaxed type class for intermediate to advanced students who would like to practice some of the things they learned in beginning and intermediate. It's very conversation oriented, as the title indicates, and the students have a lot to say about what we're going to talk about in that class. The other class that I teach is totally different, and it's called iPhoneography, and it's just plain fun. Um, the the iPhone these days has a very powerful camera, and most of us take pictures with it. And everybody's a photographer these days, so I'm gonna tell you the old saying that from DSLR photographers, that what's the best camera? And it's the one you have with you. And what's the camera you have with you? It's your iPhone. Or I'm afraid I can't include anything but iPhone in this class because the apps are designed, excuse me, for iPhone. But it's really a lot of fun. And it's a photo editing so that you can correct some of the mistakes that you make in your photos. You can turn them into making them look artistic. I like to say that every class has a, oh my God, that's so cool moment. And so it is a fun class.
Thank you, Susan. I can vouch for Susan's skills as a teacher. Although she tried hard, I didn't do that well in her Spanish class, but I think I still carry with me a lot of what I learned in the iPhoneography class. Are there any questions that anyone else in the audience by chat or otherwise would like to ask Susan? Our next panelist is Ms. Joan Nurse, who's been an instructor for the OLLI at UM Technology program for 5 years. She is a volunteer on the OLLI at UM Curriculum Committee and is a Zoom trainer for our members. She has worked in the technology industry for 18 years and worked with Fortune 500 companies in programming and software, both domestically and internationally. In 2000, she was certified in A+ hardware and software at the University of Miami. She is currently working on her PhD at Barry University. And Joan, what courses have you taught over your career at OLLI, and what do you have on tap for this fall?
Well, I've taught many classes. Thank you, Leslie. I've taught many classes at OLLI. One could be Excel, one could be basic computers. They're on and on. But for this fall 1 and fall 2, I'll be covering the Windows 10 operating system, the benefits in using it. Some people understand it a little more when they're just going in and using their computer for email. However, there are much more things that has to do with that Windows 10, and I want to grasp that information and give it to the class. And believe it or not, they come out of the class and they really learn a lot. The next would be the Apple Care, and that will cover your iPhone, your iMac, anything to do with questions regarding your iMac or your iPhone, your iPad. How do I find my serial number? How many gigabytes do I have on my phone? How do I relate to others on my phone by finding things, doing my email, doing messages, and that sort of thing, all related to Apple Care. And then the third class I'll be covering for this fall 1 and 2 would be Google Apps. And with that being said, I want to make sure that if you are going into my Google class, that you do have the prerequisite of understanding computers. I know that you understand going into your email, however, you can have a problem just going into the computer. So I just want to have that as a prerequisite that you do understand computers and you're rearing to go. And I look forward to seeing some of you in some of these classes that I'm teaching for fall 1 and 2.
I've also had the pleasure of taking several of Joan's classes and learned firsthand that the iPhone is many times more powerful than the most powerful computer that we had when we were in our relative youth. Are there any other questions for Joan? Our next panelist is Dr. Mitra Raheb, who received her PhD from the University of Miami in International Relations. She is an adjunct professor at several local universities. She consults for international organizations and has been at OLLI for 19 years. Mitra, what courses have you taught at the UM, and what do you have on tap for this fall? Unmute.
Second. There you go. Thank you, Leslie. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The courses are vast, history, religion, politics. So it's quite a few, but I think in this term, we're doing two things. One is the stable Monday night current events class, in which we do look at the world, and certainly not from so-called Western, New York Times, Washington Post, traditional points of view. We go really beyond that. And the other class is concentrate on Asia, which is a continuation of the last term. Because obviously there is a general view that this is the century of Asia. So the world will be looking at that, not just obviously non-Islamic, but obviously the Islamic worlds of Asia as well, Central Asia, West Asia. There is a new world order established in the international community, and these new world orders are largely within Asia. The class will go from that particular premise. So that's what the class will continue to look upon. Certainly the Monday class, the Wednesday class is a combination of history and current events. And so the class is a given, one-on-one take. It's not politically correct. So it will get heated at times. Certainly the Monday class I'm referring to. So I don't think warning is the right word. I do advise my audience, as I advise my clients, I'm going to get paid whether you agree or disagree with me. That's the reality of life. So if you're easily offended, do not take this course. Certainly the Monday class, we are not a politically correct class at all. It is an intellectual sanctuary for individuals. So you can have any opinion you like. It does not matter as long as, you're within the realms of, shall we say, politeness. And so it does get heated. That class will be on Zoom on Monday, and because we do have audience from around the world, which is many ways much better because it gives you an inside look into how other nations or other individuals interpret the news of what's going on internally as well as externally of the United States. The Wednesday class, I believe it's both. It's a hybrid. I will go to, because it is a smaller class, obviously, but you still could get the classes as well. So given what is happening in current events, I think Asia has got to be the key.
Thank you, Mitra. I've also had the pleasure of being a member of several of the very lively courses that Mitra has taught, and it helped me move on from my Middle Ages to the Middle East and beyond. Any other questions for Mitra before we move on? To introduce our last panelist, Dr. Michael Scheibach. He is an independent scholar, an educator, and author of 5 books on the early atomic age, with his latest book titled Alert America, the Atomic Bomb and the Show That May Save Your Life. He has a PhD in American Studies and taught as an adjunct professor of American history for some 20 years. This is his 4th year teaching at OLLI. Michael, could you let us know what you've taught at OLLI and what you have on tap for us this fall?
Sure, thank you. Of course, my specialty is American history, and I've had an opportunity to teach our more consequential presidents, presidential elections, the history of racial discrimination, living with the atomic bomb. So really a wide variety of classes that I've taught. This fall, in fall 1, I'm going to be teaching the Great Depression, life in the 1930s. And the approach I take, and really in all of my classes, is to be informative. I hope to offer a few new insights, but also to make the classes as entertaining as possible. So it becomes a very enjoyable learning experience. So I like to incorporate a lot of audio and video into the classes So this fall one and on the Great Depression, we'll of course talk about the politics and the economics, the impact on the family. But we'll also talk about the 1930s as being really the rise of Hollywood and the motion picture industry, the expansion of radio as a news and entertainment source, as well as the arts, music and theater. So my approach is really to try to give you a well-rounded view of the 1930s. And then in fall two, I'll be teaching a new class that I've developed that I hope will be just as interesting. It's called Two Generations, Two Decades. And we'll be looking at what I call the World War generation, those born between 1938 and 1945, and the Vietnam generation, which is really the first phase of the baby boom, 1946 to 1953. And we'll look at how these two generations, just a few years apart, were affected by the 1950s and the 1960s as they were growing up, and also how they influenced the 1950s and the 1960s. So I hope it will really be kind of an enlightening class for everyone, maybe a few new perspectives on the 1950s and 1960s.
Thank you, Michael. I've also won the lottery, I guess. I've had a class with Michael as well on the American presidents, and he really makes history come alive and kind of gives you aspects of it that a lot of us, as well-educated as we are, probably didn't know previously. Are there any other questions for Michael?
Yes, there's one. Will Michael's class be offered via Zoom?
I guess that's a question you need to answer. At this point, I think it was going to be in person. Is that correct?
I think your class was going to be via hybrid.
A hybrid.
So yes, you can take it either in person or on Zoom.
So I hope you will, who's ever asking the question, again, I hope you do take it. I think you'll find it a very nice class.
Okay. I wanted to remind all of our viewers that you can submit questions, as this last question was submitted, by the chat function for the panelists or either of the hosts. So please do so at any time, and Magda will collect them and ask them at the proper moment. I'd like to have a second round of questions for our panelists. And Mitra, could you tell us, how did you gravitate toward the subjects that you've taught during your career? What piqued your interest in them and had you concentrate on them? Voice, mute.
Oh my gosh. So actually it's quite interesting because, you know, I started, well, long ago, right? Like pre-Zoom and pre all of this, you know, in my younger age, like with the perfect skin and the perfect, you know, when I was younger, I started actually, my concentration was always on Islamic women, but in Central Asia and the former Soviet Islamic Republic. So I was the first one in the country that examined the entire former Soviet Islamic Republic's attitude towards women. And so that was my expertise. And so gradually, obviously I knew Central Asia, I knew the Caucasus and partial Middle East, but with September 11th, we went completely towards Middle East and partly towards North Africa. And so that expanded. But I think as foreign policy emerged and new actors played in the international community, we expanded. You automatically expand your knowledge to include Asiatic territories. So even though it has been the Muslim world, obviously it has been Asia as well, it's more for the past, I think, certainly for the past 5, 6, I would say 6 or 7 years, more towards the Asiatic world, although the great concentration on the Islamic world. So I think history, current events, the September 11th, the occupation of Iraq, all of those things, the coups in Libya and Syria, current events, the rise of China, obviously as a superpower, all of these led into just a transition, just coming from, you know, West Asia and Central Asia to the Middle East to North Africa, and ironically going back, you know, in many ways to Asia. So I think when you're in my field, which is current events and international relations, you it's not so much what you decide, it's what current, you know, it's what the environment takes you in there. So you may start with something, but time, you know, current events and experience takes you to someplace else. And it's not something that you're just going to be there. So all of these events that I spoke about just pulls you along, and you just go, because you have to keep up to date. You just can't be in this particular environment all the time. So that's what's really did it. Current events, you just went poof, 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 and you have to keep up. If you do not keep up, you won't make it.
Thank you. Without giving away any family secrets, and since we have an abbreviated program today, I'd like kind of a capsule, if you could. What effect do you think your own family heritage has on your perspective on the subjects you just recited?
Right. So, you know, I had a very strict rule. You don't give your personal opinion. I don't necessarily have real, you know, I've noticed that sometimes as I've gotten older, you enter that, but then the audience pulls me back, right? So it's not so much as a personal opinion as my experience from the region or my experience from reading or knowing the logic. I think you're making a huge mistake when you intertwine your personal opinion with what you're teaching, because yes, it's important. It's virtually impossible to be completely objective. It's not going to work. But I think the ability to recognize that, the ability to go back to your rich heritage. I come from, you know, West Asia. I have a, you know, very, you know, rich history. I come from Iran, obviously the oldest country in the world, established country in the world. And that says a lot. You know, my children are mixed, you know, the Russian father. So all of this is a mix. So I look towards that. It allows me to understand the region better. It allows me to understand the mentality of better. So in my class, I think, I'm not saying that because I'm very smart or anything of that sort, but if you ask my audience who have been with me for quite a long time, and I mean quite a long time, they will tell you when it comes to foreign policy events, I've rarely been wrong, if mainly because we try to look at the world from a particular view. So you can look at your back and your history and your upbringing, say, okay, from what I've learned and from what I've studied, this is what's going to happen, I believe. But you don't allow it to tend to your opinion, because you have to be as much as objective as you can be. But you can look to your traditions, you can look to your past and learn from them and say, okay, this is what it applies here. So I am blessed. I come from an extremely rich history, and I come from a very rich background, and that allows me to look at a world that gives me an access to a world that perhaps not seen from others, and then add everything else, you know, from the American, the European, and it's just, it creates this rich map, I should say, and rich understanding of the events that are currently shaping the international community.
Well, thank you very much. Michael, how has teaching at OLLI differed from your prior teaching experiences, including the nature of the students that are in your classes?
Well, when you're teaching more traditional college students, say 19 to 25, they can be interested and attentive, but they tend to be more passive and not really to interact so much. So can be somewhat disappointing, I think, as a teacher. What I've really enjoyed about OLLI is not only are the participants, the students, interested and attentive, but they also are very open to interacting with the class and sharing both their life experiences, their personal life experiences, but also their knowledge, their educational background and knowledge. And I will say that I have learned a lot myself from just what the students have been able to share in the class on the various historical classes that I've taught. So it is, again, I think it's a rewarding experience both for the instructors and for the students. It makes it very unique. OLLI is very unique in that sense.
Well, thank you. Susan, can you tell us about your experience learning and teaching with Zoom, including the training you received? And I guess maybe any particular problems you had and hopefully overcame.
Well, Zoom became a necessity with the pandemic, and it, it elicited a number of expletives at the beginning because it can be a little challenging. So I was very grateful to the university for providing really an excellent trainer, and I hope he's going to be available again this year, to help the teachers and the students um, master Zoom, at least to the extent that our classes can run smoothly. It's a lot easier. The process is much easier for students because really we will send you a link and all you have to do is click on it and you're in Zoom. And once you're in Zoom, if there really isn't that much, you've seen what we've had to do, mute. That's that there was a meme on Facebook where the number one expression for 2020 was "you're on mute." And I recall having said it many times to my students. So even those of us with experience still have, you know, some issues now and then. So don't be intimidated by it. There will be training for you and tolerance on the part of the faculty if you have problems. But, you know, there is an upside, and that is you can come to class in your jammies. You couldn't do that before. So we have to look at the bright side.
Well, thank you. And I noticed that if you get knocked off, you can re-enter and resume.
You can, in most cases. Every now and then there's a, you know, I had a power outage one time at my house, and of course the whole class went, you know, it went out. But that is the only time that I recall having anything that took longer than 5 minutes to correct. So we always say if the worst case, you log out for 5 minutes and then come back.
Thank you. Joan, our resident computer whiz here, how have you found teaching on Zoom? And do you have any encouragement for others who are new to the platform?
Well, it'll never replace in person. I will go along with that. Just seeing the faces and interacting with a person in person is the greatest thing you can have. However, because we're using Zoom right now, it's been quite rewarding to me as an instructor, because I'm glad to see that when people are learning new systems and we're also moving up in the technology with the university itself on that platform. So that's happy. I'm happy with that. With my evaluation, it's great for a new instructor because you have little fallout of intellectual quality, meaning that you could still have that interaction with the person, even though you're not in person with them. Zoom is giving you that quality. You can look at your students and focus on the screen. It's manageable. Even if you have more than 1 or 2 people, some classes have a larger scope of members. So you can move them into different rooms. You can section them out into breakout rooms and give them other things to do. So that's more so better than if you had a classroom than breaking them up. As well as you can see the expression directly on the person's face as you're teaching now. In classroom, you would have to look around, you would have to scope the room and try to figure out who's getting it and who's not. as well as you have the video conferencing, which is great to have working with Zoom. And this gives you an avenue where you can use other things like the television, videos, and all types of things in order to encourage your students. So Zoom is doing a great job with that, as well as you have people that bring a human connection in a way. These are people that are home. They're not in connected with other people because of the pandemic. So right now, Zoom is a great thing to use. And I encourage all new instructors to take advantage of all the things that will go along with it, meaning the videos. Also, I did an afternoon tea with one of the classes at one time, and we did a virtual tour of the Guggenheim Museum in New York. So over coffee. So I think it's a great tool for new instructors, and I would encourage everyone else, just like Susan has said, don't fear the course, don't fear the operating system. It's great, and you'll get used to it just like everyone else. I had an 80-year-old that was doing better than some of the people in their 60s. So I encourage you all, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much. Let me put this out to all of our panelists. What else have you found special about OLLI in your own experiences? Anyone wants to add anything to what's already been discussed?
Leslie, I wanted to add something before we leave Zoom. And one of the benefits that it has over in-person classes is that the classes can be recorded. A lot of our members are busy people with obligations. They have to leave the state, like family obligations, and if they miss a class, they can get a recording of that class sent to them by the instructor. And I think that's something we really can't do in person. So there is that benefit.
Well, thank you. Magda, do you have any questions that have popped up on the chat room?
Yes, there are a few questions that have been submitted by our audience. One is regarding the writer's workshop. The catalog says it's in person. The writer's workshop will now be offered only on Zoom by the request of the instructor. So it will be offered on Zoom. Another question is regarding the limitation on how many in-person students are allowed into each class. And yes, given the fact that we are observing social distancing, we will have limited seating available in the classrooms. So once those are filled to capacity, then everyone else can take the class via Zoom. Someone asked for, Susan asked for Michael's, the page on the catalog for Michael's classes. And so during fall 1, Michael's class is on page 29, and on fall 2, it'll be on page 57. And this question is for Mitra. Did you start out specializing in one country?
That's my landline. Sorry, I forgot it existed.
There you go. We really didn't specialize in one country. We specialized in the region. So my expertise was West Asia and Central Asia, but obviously West Asia does include Middle East. And so we came in, you know, right after the invasion of Afghanistan and up to September 11. So it's the region. It's West Asia, Central Asia, Middle East, not one country. It's the region. So you can't just specialize in one area. And of course we expanded. When we were doing that, there were different classes. There was a courses taught on Islam, you know, like a 6 weeks to 12 weeks course on Islam. In addition to foreign policy, we had individual classes on Islamic nations or non-Islamic nations. We had individual classes on China, on Japan, on India. So we just finished, I think last spring, we had 6 weeks classes on the Mughal Empire, 3 weeks of the Mughal Empire, which is extremely important because the current events in Afghanistan, obviously when the Mughals does come from Afghanistan, then the rule of India in Afghanistan today, or the attempted rule of India. but it wasn't one nation, it's a region. It's a region per se.
Okay, thank you, Mitra. Now we have, how do I know if I should take beginning or Spanish intermediate? This question is for Susan. Susan, you have to, okay.
Yes, okay, that's really pretty easy. If you think whatever one you think best suits you, register for it and attend the first class. This is allowable with OLLI. If you come to that class and you feel that you are either too advanced or not advanced enough, then you can go to the lower class. So, and also if you check the course description in the catalog, it gives more information about what is covered in beginning Spanish and what's covered in intermediate. I believe it does, right, Magda? So
Yes,
you
it
can
does.
check those things out and see where you stand. Or, you know, I'm happy to have a conversation with you at another time, and you can email me, and I'll be happy to give you my assessment.
Right, and we also have another Spanish instructor who's a native Spanish speaker. So he and Dr. Luis Palom, and he and Susan are in constant communication. So if one student signs up for one class and they believe the person should be in another class, then they communicate and we will happily switch the person from one level to the other. Can courses be paid for by tuition remission? Unfortunately, we do not accept tuition remission from the university. However, since it's a low cost, you can either pay, or we also offer financial aid for those that qualify. So just reach out to me individually and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you. How do I access the catalog? The catalog is online, and it's on olli.dcie.miami.edu. We will present a final slide towards the end of our program after our discussion that has all the contact information. And we can also email it to you if you so wish. Leslie, would you like to?
Oh, someone asked, maybe I'm seeing another version of the chat. Are the courses that we talked about today the only ones offered by OLLI? And Magda, how many courses are we offering now?
We are offering approximately 150 courses during fall 1 and 2. So we have about 75 courses during fall 1 and another 75 during fall 2. And you can register for both fall 1 and fall 2 at the same time. So you can choose to continue the classes. For example, Mitra's class, Global Viewpoints. You have the first part, and then it's a continuation, but you can also take them independently, as well as Michael's and Jones and Susan's.
And there was one other one that I saw. Is the OLLI office open for students to come in and talk to staff?
It's currently open on a limited basis, but we would recommend that you call us and we'll be more than happy to answer. I think the OLLI website was posted also on the chat for those of you that were looking for the link.
Oh, great. Yeah, I see down at the bottom here.
And I can also post the phone number for you to call.
From a little personal perspective, my own history with OLLI began about 8 years ago on the recommendation of a friend. And I was a little apprehensive about coming to a strange venue and a little worried about the logistics of parking and not knowing anyone in the classes. Zoom has alleviated the parking. I can't promise that that it won't be something you have to deal with when we come back to in-person classes. But right now, it certainly isn't. And with the number of in-person people we have coming in, it probably shouldn't be. Then my experience in dealing with that apprehension, the experience and the quality of the instructors, as you have seen here today, and the friendliness of the fellow students, and the common interests shared with other members pretty quickly alleviated my concerns, and my passion for politics and current events got the best of me, and I really took to the courses in that field and became a substitute instructor in one of them, and eventually became a co-leader, and have been for the last 4 years, of one of the special interest groups meeting at noon. It's called In the News. But OLLI has really become a central component of my life's activities. I really look forward to the social events. They've been much more limited recently, but we will be returning them as soon as we can. And I strongly recommend that you consider trying out OLLI for yourselves. And I think for many of you, it will fit.
One of the questions that came in was regarding how do you register, how do you become a member, how do you register for classes? So we will post at the end a slide with that particular information. So what we're doing is you look through the catalog, you identify the classes that you're interested in signing up for and registering, and then either you go online, and there you can do both. You can acquire a membership at the same time as you register for the classes. So there's nothing extra that you necessarily have to do. And if you're having a difficult time you create an ID, it would be like any other organization that you want to register for. You you put in your information, you get an ID number, you set up a password, and then you sign up for your classes. And you will be charged all at the same time. If you find that too cumbersome, you can feel free to call us at the number indicated in the chat and also on the slide, and we'll be more than happy to do that for you as well, set you up as a member, and then we'll take your payment. So it's very easy. It'll take you maybe 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes. I have another one. How many students are allowed in person? It depends really on the class. So each class has a specific limitation due to the size of the room. So we have identified different rooms. We have 5 rooms at Lao Founders Hall. And depending upon the class, then we will also limit the people who are allowed in that particular classroom. So Mitra's class, for example, meets in the biggest room, and that has been reduced in size. Typically, it was 80 students that were allowed in that classroom, and now I believe it's 25 students in that classroom, so that it provides sufficient space between students. Joan's classes are typically smaller, so typically she has a maximum of 12, and I believe it's 5 or 6 students only allowed in that particular classroom. What is the best time to call OLLI to ask questions? Between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Joan, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to encourage you guys, if you are taking some of my computer classes, that some of them will be hybrid, meaning that some students will be able to go into the classroom, and then you will also have some that will be on the Zoom. And that will cut down on the social interaction with others, as well as keep in mind that the class is for 6 weeks and that it can be a fun experience either on Zoom or in the class. And I encourage you all that have these new phones out there, the number 12, iPhone 12s, that if you are having problems with them, the book is not going to help. I had someone ask me, would I recommend them buying a book from Barnes and Nobles? And I said, no, everything is hands-on. And I encourage you to do it hands-on, not to read the book. The book is just a book. You have to actually feel it, touch it, and do it. So I look forward to you guys coming into my class and experiencing something good with either Apple, Windows 10, or Google Apps.
I also have another question here for Michael. Michael, what do you think are the benefits of, the benefits of being an OLLI member?
The benefits of being an OLLI member. Well, let me share a quote that I read just a few days ago by Dr. Anthony Fauci, who we've all come to know through the pandemic. And he made a very good point. He said, no matter how much knowledge you have or you think you have, we should all be learners. And he calls that perpetual learners, that there's never ending to learn something new and fresh. And OLLI is the ideal organization opportunity to be a perpetual learner. So I would just encourage everyone to look at all the classes that are being offered and to take that view that even though you may think you know about that subject, there's always going to be something new and fresh that you're going to learn. So that's my recommendation for everyone to be a part of OLLI.
Another thing that I've found in following up on what Michael is saying is that the people who are members of OLLI bring with them a wealth of professional and other experiences. And you often can learn as much or more from the students as you can from the structured course material. And the intellectual interaction is really quite rewarding.
Yes, most of our members are retired professionals. Some are semi-retired. So, you have a wide range of professionals and they're more than happy to share their experience. It's a very lively and very interesting group. Our classes, someone asked again, what are the costs of the classes? The costs of the classes are anywhere from free, as in the shared interest groups, one of which Leslie teaches, to on average $80 a class. There are a few classes that are more expensive, but our most expensive class is $125 a session. And those are the art classes. But they're very, as I said before, they're very, very low cost, given the amount of time that you are in class, and also, given all the other courses that are being offered out there as well. And if there's anyone that has a need, financial need, then again, please speak to me and we will be more than happy to chat about financial aid. And the cost of the classes are all indicated in our catalog. Can you borrow books from the library? Yes, you can. As an OLLI member, you have borrowing privileges at the Victor Library. Do you have any other, does anyone else have any comments?
I was just going to add one of the benefits that I have gotten from being involved with OLLI is that I made a lot of friends. Even with the Zoom classes, I wondered what would happen because, but at the end of the class, they all wanted to get together for lunch. And we had never, ever seen each other in person before, only on Zoom. So I think that's a benefit, and it's better in person. Absolutely. I mean, the friendship aspect, but you also make friends on Zoom.
You get to know everyone's name more easily because
Yeah, you see it.
unless they just call themselves iPhone 3.
Yeah, I've had that too. That's what I call them then.
Match up the people with the names and make up for those of us who have lapses in remembering introductions from past experiences. This way you can get some reinforcement of who's who and matching the people in the photos. Magda, I see another couple that popped up. Is there a membership card to use at the library or art museum?
No, well, we have a membership card when you're in person. Now, because of COVID, we are just communicating directly with those organizations. So we will, if you're interested in using the library, please let us know and we'll communicate directly with the library and let them know that you are an OLLI member. The same thing goes with the Low Art Gallery.
And here's a question. Would people in OLLI classes have access to newspaper subscriptions through the library?
I am not certain. I would have to ask the library. I know they borrow books, but I'm not sure about the newspaper subscriptions. You probably have access to whatever the library offers.
When is the last date to register for classes?
The classes begin August 30th, and the Wednesday before it would be the last day, which is the 25th. Let me look a second. The 25th. So August 25th would be the last day to register for classes. So there's still plenty of time. I am new to Miami. Where are the classes held? The classes are held in Lau Founders Hall, which is on the Coral Gables campus of the University of Miami. Our specific address is 1550 Brescia Avenue, which is between San Amaro Drive and Red Road. That's by the baseball field on the UM campus.
And for those of you who are more familiar with the Miami grid system, Brescia is a continuation of 64th Street, and this is at approximately 64th Street and Red Road, which is 57th Avenue.
I would like to thank everyone for attending our session today, and I'll hand it over to Leslie.
Magda, you have the summary slide there? Okay. As if we haven't given you enough encouragement already, we just want to let you know and remind you that for an annual membership of $55, you can become a member for a year. New members receive a $5 membership fee discount. Classes begin Monday, August 30th, 2021. And for the fall catalog and information about all kinds of things, many of which we've covered here today, but mission statement and history and so on, visit the website. And of course, most importantly, you will be able to access the catalog for this year's courses and descriptions of the instructors, all of them, not just the 4 wonderful instructors we've had here today, but all of the others. And the phone number there is up on the screen for you, 305-284-6554. We ask that following the presentation today, the open house, that you complete a survey which will be sent around to all of you who attended, so we can try to make our future open houses even better and address the needs and questions and comments of all of you who are here. We thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon at OLLI. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.